He'll set the groove. Oh, manly Mark, the man with the spark. He's got the wisdom, he's got the heart. Pull up a chair, stay for a while. Manly Mark will make you smile. He's got tales that twist and turn, a world of wonders you'll soon learn. Big band swing with a gentle tone. In his company, you're never alone. The horns will croon, the rhythm will sway. Mark's got stories to brighten your day. A dash of charm.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Midday Madness with Manly Mark. If you tuning in and haven't noticed, I'm running a few minutes behind, but hey, traffic was heavy. I had a hard time getting to the pub, so I don't think Terry's gonna mind. And as always, I'm waiting on Jazzy J and T-Man. I got a lot of stuff to talk to them about today, but as always, since I'm waiting, I'll sit here and talk to you guys. So, hope everyone had a good weekend. You know, I had a good weekend. I'm sick of this hot weather. Need a little rain, but I'm just ready for fall. Had a good weekend, though, and ready to get back into it for the week. And had a good show with Fee this morning. So if you guys haven't tuned in to or watched our the Feast Me show with Manly Mark from this morning, me and Fee get, going back and forth at it a little bit, get debating. We like to do that debating, but I find that it's usually in the debates that you learn a whole lot of things, whether that be new information or you learn how the other person operates, or how they operate is a good way to say it. But it was a good show. And if you're not familiar with that show, it's the Feast Me show with Manly Mark at 9 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday. I'm here Monday through Friday at 12, and the Night with Fee at 9 p.m. is blowing up. So people just love hearing Coach Fee tell them how to live their lives. And so if you haven't caught that, tune in, because I think you guys will like that. And as far as today's show, we've got several things I want to talk about. And if you notice me clicking around or eyeballing, I'm going to try to check these different platforms to check comments on other sites, just in case they're not coming in here. So, sometimes I'll get off the stream and I'll check the Instagram and be like, oh, Colin was watching, and I didn't even say nothing, dadgummit. So I've got my eyes open now. I'm watching. But we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, just in summary, we're going to talk about, probably at first, just a few current events. I like to give a little summary of what's going on over the weekend. Then we're going to get into a little bit of a debate going on about Tucker Carlson right now. Don't know if most people don't have an opinion about him other than he just used to work for Fox. But for the most part, I really like Tucker. I like the content he puts out. And we'll get into just a little bit about him and what it says for the broader media and just the broader spectrum of the elites. Excuse me, apparently my voice is going out. Terry, I'm going to need the water over here eventually, man. Okay, anyways. So if my voice cuts out, apologize. That Terry, he's having a bad one lately. But anyways, just to start us off, I wanted to get into a video about RFK Jr. He was Trump's pick for, I can't tell you his actual position, but Make America Healthy Again is his platform. And so right off the bat, I guess he was a Democrat for the longest time, but he's pushed for safer ingredients in foods and vaccines. People call him a conspiracy theorist, a crook, I don't know. But long story short, I think the guy's doing good things. If he wants to get poison out of our tap water, poison out of the vaccines we give our children, poisons out of our foods like Red 40, the dyes. Oh, man, I could go on forever about just about how much I hate, like reading about how much poison they put in our foods. It just, But you can't escape it either. You either have to be rich and be able to afford to buy food without poison, which is silly because it's like food with less stuff in it costs more money. Okay. Anyways, long story short, so far from what I've seen of RFK Jr., I like what he's doing, and I'm going to keep hoping he does good stuff and goes further. But this video in particular, he gets into 5G and its harmful effects on us. And you see in a lot of conspiracy circles, it's something people would scoff at and say, because people say, oh, the 5G's frying your brains, or oh, 5G caused COVID, or oh, the 5G towers are poison. Turns out they kind of are. And I've kind of thought this for a while, just because it's like they have to disguise these 5G towers as trees. I don't know if you've ever seen like a 5G tower that's just illy disguised as a tree. Silly. But and if you say, oh, that's kooky thinking 5G could be harmful. Well, these cell phones, 5G, are harmful. Microwaves, all of it's harmful. We just don't think about it. But let's listen to RFK Jr. about what he's saying about 5G.
Okay, my concern about 5G is that the RF radiation from 5G is dangerous. It penetrates it disrupts the blood-brain barrier. It also is associated with glioblastomas and other cancers. And it causes a lot of other dramatic health effects. And there are literally thousands and thousands of studies in that. I've litigated on that issue, and I've won in the Federal Court of Appeals. So, you can say it's a conspiracy theory, but the Federal Court of Appeals, I also won a case on Monsanto and glyphosate that it caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that was called a conspiracy theory. What I've said about 5G is, it is dangerous. It is underregulated. Other countries regulate it much better than us. And we need to protect our children. We should not be having these antennas on elementary schools. We should be warning people appropriately, do not put that cell phone next to your head. Because, we're seeing this epidemic now of glioblastomas, and almost all of them are connected to the year that you favor the cell phone with. Oh, there's study after study that shows that, and I'm in litigation on that issue right now.
Oh, there you see, he himself kind of got into how people think that's a conspiracy, and well, clearly it's not. And they're putting them in elementary schools. You put the phone under the lab. What's it doing to people, man? It can't be good. And so it's like, as he said, other countries regulate these kinds of things better, but we don't in America. Just like they regulate their food, the poisons they don't allow in their foods show up in American foods. So I'm glad RFK Jr. is there. All the negative things you would want to say about him, sure, but he's doing good things for the health of America, and I hope he continues. So I'm thankful for RFK Jr. I'm ready for him just to do something about the vaccines, which I should have showed the video. He just recently, I've been seeing it all over Twitter. I know it's called X now, but I'm just always going to call it Twitter. Can't help it. All over Twitter about how he recently removed or banned essentially a mercury chemical in vaccines, an additive in vaccines. And it's like, why do they have mercury in the vaccines in the first place? Come on. And then they say there's no correlation between just the amount of vaccines that children receive and all these mental disorders we have. I don't know, man. I don't know, autism, ADHD, OCD, all of those things, man. And so, like I said, I'm glad we got RFK Jr., and I hope he keeps on trucking along. And so moving on from that, I saw just something I thought was kind of interesting. Something in the news about, there's a lot of talk about gerrymandering in Texas. And, I don't know a whole lot about that, other than I guess it's, if I'm correct, you essentially try to change the borders of voting districts to get certain demographics or not get certain demographics so that, your party can win. Something like that, I guess. But in response to voting on that, apparently they had a lot of Democrat politicians in Texas not show up. And so it's very interesting that the Texas Governor Abbott, I'll show you the videos, recently essentially come out and said that if they don't show up, he's going to just vacate their seats. And it's like, whoa. So that's interesting. Let me see. I've got to click on here. So you guys listen to this and see what you think about that.
You said in your statement that you put out today to all of them, in a letter to them, you said, in addition to abandoning their offices, these legislators may also have committed felonies. What is the felony? What are the penalties for this?
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential.
Oh yeah, well, see, I didn't even realize he got into the fact that these politicians might be getting paid to delay these votes. So that's interesting. And so the fact that he has that power, good for him. I mean, say what you will about Texas. I have plenty of gripes about Texas being from Arkansas, and I'm not hating. I love Texas. I love Texas. I love Texas in a broader sense, I guess. In a yeah, Texas. But from Arkansas versus Texas, it's like a Texas driver on the road. Great. You know, no hate though, no hate. But it's very interesting, and I guess I don't know what time it is right now, but it'd be interesting to see how many of those people show up and actually make it to the court. And like I said, I'm just hitting kind of the weekend news, and if you notice, I just noticed these videos don't necessarily match the audio, and the reason I think that is because I have so much content loaded in today that it might be a little laggy. So videos are authentic, got them from all these authentic sources. So don't think if the audio doesn't quite match the video, just because my silly computer. And so, yeah, you got RFK coming out, warning about 5G. You got, in Texas, you got Abbott talking about throwing those demos out of Congress, the Texas Congress. So it'll be fun to see. Fun to see what goes on with that. Again, I'm in the camp of nothing ever happens, but it's harder to say that nothing ever happens on a state government level, because stuff does kind of happen sometimes there. I wish something would happen about John Bozeman in Arkansas. I mean, I want to know if he voted for that bill banning Congress to trade stocks. I guess I could look it up, but that's beside the point. Not to get hung up on the past. And really, I guess the last video I want to show you to kind of recap about over the weekend, what's going on in the news, current news, before I get into the more interesting things that I think are interesting, is the Obama stuff. This is going to show you some Jesse Waters from Fox, and essentially just more coming out about that from Tulsi, and essentially it's getting to the point where I don't know how they can't indict Obama or Hillary. I think I saw recently that Hillary Clinton and a few other folks have had their security clearances revoked, which that's good, but until they're in handcuffs, I don't know, man. And I'm not going to be one of those guys who say, yep, they're going to get them. Because, again, it's me. Nothing ever happens. But just check out this video on Obama and see what we think about that. I'm listening with you guys, so tune in.
Fox News alert, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard got her hands on a House intel report that's been locked away in a CIA vault for almost a decade. Investigators spent over 2,000 hours looking into how the Russia hoax was born. interviewing 20 CIA and FBI officials. And it turns out that the Obama administration doctored the intelligence to make it look like Putin and Trump stole the election. A month after Trump beat Hillary, Barack Obama wasn't satisfied with his intelligence reporting and ordered his CIA director to create a new assessment of how Russia interfered with the election. This was a highly unusual move. John Brennan handpicked 5 CIA analysts to write the assessment, and they were siloed. None of them knew what the other was doing, and only one analyst was in charge of drafting this report. There was nothing routine about this, and it was a rush job to publish before Trump was sworn in. Nothing was coordinated with the other intelligence agencies either. Basically, this was home cooking for Barack Obama. There were 4 key elements from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and formed the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4, that the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence. The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA.
It's kind of funny listening to him go on about that, because it's like, oh, they were that lazy that these different intelligence agencies weren't communicating to each other about these things. And it's like, well, I guess like you said, they wanted to rush it to get it out. But man, I don't know if they were so cut. It's almost like I want to think, man, how could they be that dumb? But are they that dumb, or I don't know? Were they that cocky and thinking that they were really going to pin him, so he wouldn't win the election, wouldn't get elected, and then when he actually got elected, they're thinking, whoa. So they just threw off his whole first election with this, lawsuit and impeachment after impeachment. That just annoyed me to death. And then I guess they stole the 2020 election, thinking again, well, now we got it, we'll never lose power again. And then people voted for Trump in such a overwhelming majority, it broke their cheating algorithms, I guess. And so now they found the documents in burn bags that they didn't burn. And it's like, why not just, you hand me a bag and say, burn this. I'm going to burn it first thing. It doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't burn the bag. Just burn the bag. Burn the burn bag. It's called a burn bag for a reason. If I was a cool FBI agent doing shady stuff, I'd be smoking cigs. Oh, I'll take that burn bag. Come on now. Throw it. Do a little gasoline. I'd make a whole scene of it, I'd just make a whole scene. But people just aren't, they're too lazy. Too lazy even to cover up their own crimes, which is silly because they're in such high levels of power and influence that you'd think they'd be more careful. But that's the thing. They have so much power and influence, they must be cocky. And you might wonder, well, where does this power and influence come from? And I think you could say a lot of things. Money, blackmail, even ancestry, lineages hold certain powers like the Rothschilds. Won't get into that yet. We will one day. But I think that the real puppet masters behind the government are supernatural forces. And, you might say, well, Mark, you say that about everything. You say everything is demons and demonic. And in a sense, I go, ha, no, I'm just kidding. But then in another sense, I'm like, well, I guess context matters, but a whole lot of things. This is literally a black mirror. A black mirror we just stare into and conjure up our deepest desires. You know? What's staring back at you, man? Whew, these TVs just one-eyed devils. There's a reason there's an apple with a bite taken out of it on the back of your phone. You hold the collective knowledge of humanity in your hands. And we spend time on Facebook looking into the past of others or looking at nasty stuff. You know, I mean, you have the collective knowledge of humanity at your fingertips, and we waste it. That's why the apple's there. One-eyed devil, man. Not to get too much off on that, but other than they mass-produce these things to keep us in a docile state of control where we endlessly indulge on information and fantasy and entertainment to the point where we're just numb to real life and real experiences. So you got that going for you, but I mean, that should be obvious. I'm sure Feast Me is going to do an episode about dopamine on Night Night with Fee. Tune in to Feast Night Night with Fee, episode 45. Dopamine? Throw your phone out or whatever. But, I think surface level they are addicting, but on a deeper level, I think there are things working in the background, manifesting themselves, pulling our strings through these things, but in the strings of the government. And I might have mentioned Tucker. Oh, I did mention Tucker earlier. But Tucker, the reason I like Tucker so much is because, he's had a very interesting life if you look into him. But he was a pretty prominent figure on Fox News for a long time. And so he has the credentials of a mainstream media figure. But since he's left Fox News and started his own channel or just releasing his own show, he doesn't have the leash of network TV to keep him from talking about what he wants to talk about. He's actually talking about a lot of interesting things. Like, I need to show the video of him talking about the UFO phenomenon and about how the people he's talked to have seen things. Because, these media people have intelligence people they go to and all these sources, but have talked to people who have seen things that they couldn't explain regarding the UFO stuff, or how the people who are in the know that Tucker's talked to essentially gave him the impression that it was these were supernatural forces that were in the works, like that we were in, not aliens from far away, that the UFO stuff was supernatural in nature. And I think Tucker even said something along the lines of, it disturbed him so much he wouldn't even, like his wife wanted to talk to him about it, and he didn't want to talk about it. And it's funny, after that, he's seemingly been a lot more religious, I don't know. But there's a lot of news also, just a little sidetrack about Tucker lately, because there was an interview where he had Candace Owens on his show. And if you don't know who Candace Owens is, she's a black female conservative woman who, she's been in the news recently because she's got sued by Bridget Macron for accusing she's a man. But after the case was dropped in the lower French Supreme Courts, Bridget just dropped all the charges. That's been in the news, so it's like, oh, so you were trying to sue her for defaming you for calling you a man, and you didn't win. I don't know what that means in law terms, but to me, I don't know. A lot of inversion going on in politics and royalty in Hollywood. It's all over the place. Those who have eyes to see know. That sounds crazy. But back to Tucker. I like Tucker because he has the credentials of a prominent mainstream figure that people trust. But now that he doesn't have the leash of network TV, he's really letting loose and talking about things he knows about and things that he believes to be true. But this in particular is Tucker getting into who he thinks really pulls the strings in the government. And I think you'll find this interesting if you haven't thought about it, because I don't know if I uploaded that. I need to upload another video, because right after this video I've got another video to show you to kind of tie into the supernatural Luciferian. Try to tie that in together with the Hollywood and celebrities and stuff, and the child trafficking. that stuff's very deep, and I'll get into it eventually. But just for now, we're just gonna dip our toe into it. But here's Tucker. Tell me what you guys think.
The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years? For you to convince me the supernatural is not real. Why do you care if I think the supernatural is real? And then you have to ask motive. Like, it's not a profit motive. Like, does it make them rich to deny that there's supernatural forces? No. What is that? And I don't know the answer, but the obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces, actually. But that they take physical form, that they're not just like some ethereal, they're not just shadows floating around, specters, fog, that they're physical. Like, they're as real as the arm of your chair. People are subject to the supernatural, so they do things that are not natural, like kill themselves. That's why we're the only species that kills itself, right? So when you kill yourself, whether slowly or all at once, you're being acted on by forces outside of you, spiritual forces, obviously. I'm just trying to apply logic here.
Man, if that doesn't kind of give you goosebumps or spook you out, whew, I don't know what will. But the point is, he's right. These people, the government, it is controlled by supernatural forces. And these things do manifest physically. And again, that ties into the whole UFO phenomenon and the paranormal, the aliens. I mean, like, people physically being abducted, that happens. These beings they see seem to be physical. And so once we do more of a deep dive into that, you'll see that it goes a lot deeper than you'd think, as far as the government involvement, corporation involvement, scientific involvement in practices that might seem practices or just things that might seem like to have a religious undertone, right? Or like almost seem like demonic. And so we'll get back into that. But to tie that into it, and that was the only video I didn't add to my playlist on this. So if you guys would give me just a moment, I'm going to pull that up because it's very important. And it's not graphic, but it's not for the faint of heart. And so it's going to pull up, but just because I'm going to add it, and so I'll have to resize it and such. But this gets into the whole government and elite and establishment being ruled by but not malevolent supernatural forces, and how it ties into, say, like the child trafficking and ritualistic sacrifice and things like that. But this is just a taste of, let me get it added up, and I don't want to give it away, but I'll add it up, and then let me take that away just because I don't want you guys to see it yet. But I remember this as it was happening, like on Twitter, that all of these tweets of Chrissy Teigen came out from 2009 on up to 2014 or 15. You'll see them. I've got the tweets right here in a video. But long story short, before the whole Me Too thing, or before, I don't know, people just started getting canceled, you'd be surprised what these celebrities would say on their personal social medias. And then, like, when she got called out, because, there's people who track this, and they have ways to view pages on the internet from a time before it was deleted, so you got that going on. But, man, these tweets, I'm getting any cuss words that come up on the screen, forgive me, or just nastiness from this woman. But she's married to John Legend. She's a celebrity. And after this, people started making a buzz about that. She went through and deleted 60,000 tweets. Because it really gave an insight into the conspiracy that the celebrities in Hollywood, the politicians, the world elite, prey upon children and have private parties where they do spirit cookings. We'll get into spirit cooking, but it's about as much context as I can give, but I might pause because some of these go kind of fast, but these are real tweets. I've seen them with my own eyes on the Twitter before they were deleted. I've seen them because people would link them and quote them, like quote tweet them, and he'd be like, whoa. And so many people started commenting on all her old tweets that she went through and cleaned them up. But just, oh gosh, just check this out. I mean, doesn't that disgust you? It literally kind of made me sick to my stomach. A little bit, but the thing is, I remember when that was happening, and I saw with my own eyes those tweets. I saw, and she deleted it because clearly the things she was saying in context can't. I mean, some of those things are so direct you can't give us a context that'd make it better. And you saw on the graphic, the FBI, if you look up, like the FBI gives like a list of code words that pedophiles use for little boys and little girls, and it's like pizza and hot dogs, and you saw her talking about pizza, and stuff like that, and it's just ties back into Tucker going into how the government's controlled by supernatural forces. Not to sound like a crazy person, but we'll get more into that specifically because I'm just kind of surface level touching on those things right now. But whew, Chrissy Teigen stuff, God, disgusting. And there's even a video of her husband, John Legend. I can see it right there in my head, and I wrote a note to download it to show you guys. But it's like coming in live on some award show or some music show, like on, I don't know, MTV or just live TV. And it's John Legend and some other, younger, not as well-known celebrity female. And, the camera's panning at him, and, she's, looking around and doesn't realize she's, they went live. And, John Legend just kind of, and she does a whole, and looks like, looks into the camera and then realizes, you see her face, puts her hands down, and then she literally looks at John Legend like, oh, I messed up. And it's like they mock us. They mock us because they're involved. I'm not going to say all of them, but there's a channel or a network of child trafficking, murder, rape, those kinds of things that are all tied into Luciferian occult practices. And it runs deep. It's deeply ingrained into our government, our establishments, even the CIA. I was showing feed just on Friday. You can get on CIA.gov and type in, what's the word I'm looking for? It was remote viewing. And they literally have declassified documents pertaining to operations where they were practicing remote viewing, which you could claim is a form of like New Age practice, occult practice, that type of thing. It's the Nazis were known to be into mysticism and things like that. But specifically speaking about mysticism, and since we're talking about Tucker, now this isn't a knock on Tucker because I really like Tucker. I really like him. I respect him as a journalist. I like listening to him. But you see something like this and it makes you wonder. Let me make sure. Tucker's okay. Red string. Let's pull up this red string. Okay, getting into mysticism. Well, there's just a practice in Jewish Kabbalicism called, well, I'll just read it. Wearing a thin scarlet or crimson string as a type of talisman is a Jewish folk custom which is practiced as a way to ward off misfortune which is brought about by the evil eye. The tradition is popularly thought to be associated with Kabbalah and religious forms of Judaism. The red string itself is usually made from a thin scarlet wool thread. It's worn as a bracelet or a band on the wrist of the wearer. The red string was worn in many cultures and not found solely in Jewish culture. Okay, ward off evil. And so, just since I read that to you, I'll go ahead and pull up old Tucker. Everywhere Tucker goes, he's pictured with a thin red scarlet bracelet on. And here's Ivanka. Not Ivanka. Is it Ivanka? I can't remember the Trump girls' names. Trump red scarlet bracelet. You can just literally type in, get on Google and type in celebrity red or scarlet bracelet, and you would see a plethora of these people with red scarlet bracelets. But the thing is, it's like Tucker's coming across as if he's surprised that the government is ran by supernatural forces, or that he said something along the lines of, "You've tried to make, they've tried to make us for 80 years not believe in the supernatural." And why is that? Okay, well, Tucker, you've believed it. I mean, you're wearing the red bracelet. Come on, we see it. It's just admit it. I mean, I'm not hating on you, and I'm not saying that Tucker's like a secret Jew, but the point being is, all of these people who are in power, the elite, and Tucker comes from a pretty well-to-do family, but the point is, they all know about these mysticism. They all know about Kabbalicism, and I'll read about it right here. I've got it pulled up. Oh, if you don't know what it is, it's just essentially Jewish mysticism. And you'd be surprised how much it influences a lot of politics and a lot of celebrities and world elite. But it's just not a conspiracy, but Kabbalah is an esoteric method, discipline, and school of thought in Jewish mysticism. It forms the foundation of mystical religious interpretations within Judaism. A traditional Kabbalist is called a Mekabulal. Jewish Kabbalists originally developed transmissions of the primary texts of Kabbalah within the realm of Jewish tradition, and often used classical Jewish scripture to explain and demonstrate its mystical teachings. Kabbalists hold these teachings to define the inner meaning of both the Hebrew Bible and traditional rabbinic literature, and their formerly concealed transmitted dimension. Well, what does that mean? As well as to explain the significance of Jewish religious observance. Historically, Kabbalah emerged from earlier forms of Jewish mysticism in 12th to 13th century province. Hakamel province, Rhineland School of Judah the Pious, and was reinterpreted during the Jewish mystical Renaissance in 16th century Ottoman. Okay, you guys get the point. The point being is, Kabbalicism is a well-established a thing. You can just read all about it. But the point is, it goes deep. It's deeply ingrained in our society. It's deeply ingrained in our culture. And symbols. Symbols are, you've seen the people talk about predictive programming, and you've seen people talk about just how they put these symbols and signs and movies and stuff. And, on the surface, you think that's crazy. But you can just see go back and look at these movie posters, or just type in weird symbols and movies, and you either see Masonic symbols or Kabbalist symbols or Luciferian symbols. They're all over, but people just don't know. And so when you look over them, or you don't notice them, but you're still giving your attention to whatever it's a part of, you're giving that your energy. Now, and I'm not even going to get into what the deeper implications of that are, but you look at a lot of these super world famous mega pop stars who do all these weird things at their concerts, their rituals, and all those millions of people all around the world watching, all those people there. I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but look into how the videos of people and fans getting into weird dazes at concerts, like Taylor Swift. They almost go into a daze. It's because it's a ritual. and you're giving so much of your energy and yourself in that moment to that, it has some sort of effect. And I'm not going to get too much off into that because I need to read up on it myself. But the point is, they're 100% supernatural forces controlling the government, and they're not necessarily good. And so, guys, we've went 40 minutes, and, let me just see if there's anything else I really wanted to talk about. I was going to kind of get into, okay, we'll keep it going. I was going to stop, but, I was going to stop quite literally just because I didn't have a good transition into what I wanted to talk about next, but who cares about having a good transition? Okay, watch me transition right now. Supernatural forces are controlling the government, and the government is manipulating the people to herd them like sheep with narratives like climate change. Ooh, how was that transition? We're talking about climate change. Now, I'm definitely pro-earth. I'm pro don't litter. I'm pro don't abuse animals. I'm pro clean up the earth, right? But I don't necessarily believe that man-made climate change is what's causing all these problems. I think that is I think that's propaganda essentially to control people, because you've got all these like carbon taxes that are coming up. People talk about you've got net neutrality. You want net zero carbon emissions. We're spending millions and billions of dollars to reduce our carbon because we are blaming humanity. But I think that is the lie. I'm not saying the climate's not changing or that things don't seem more volatile. Because check it out right here. This is a volcano that the other day apparently was erupting in Russia. So check this out. Hold on. That make it a lot smaller. Didn't have that. Didn't have that. Okay. Long story short, you see a volcano going off in Russia. You heard the Russian guy speaking, but you say, well, why is that significant? Well, didn't we just have a supergiant earthquake, tsunamis all over the place? You got this volcano that hasn't erupted in 425 years in Russia, and it's just like, ooh, something's going on. And I think I think something is going on. But I think the part about control, they want us to live in the 15-minute cities. I think the man-made climate change is the lie. I'm not saying something's not going on, but they want us to waste our time and resources and our lives to combat this thing that I don't think we really have an effect on. And even I don't know why it's so much in the news, maybe just because they're trying to prep the propaganda machines, but even Trump's been talking about it. Listen to Trump.
When I hear these poor fools talking about global warming, they don't call it that anymore. They call it climate change because, some parts of the planet are cooling and warming. It didn't work. So they finally got it right. They just call it climate change. They used to call it global warming. Years ago, they used to call it global cooling. In the 1920s, they thought the planet was going to freeze. Now they think the planet's going to burn up. And we're still waiting for the 12 years. We're down almost to the end of the 12-year period. You understand that, where these lunatics that know nothing, they said, we have 12 years to live. And people didn't have babies because they said, we only have another. No, it's so crazy. But the problem isn't the fact that the oceans in 500 years will raise a quarter of an inch. The problem is nuclear weapons. It's nuclear warming. And these poor fools talk about global warming all the time. The planet's going to global warm to a point where the oceans will rise an eighth of an inch in 355 years. They have no idea what's going to happen to weather. And in the meantime, we're spending our wealth on this foolish stuff. The wind doesn't work. It's very expensive, kills the birds, destroys everything around it. It's very, 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 very bad. It's the most expensive energy, wind. And then every 9 years, you have to replace the turbines. They're made out of steel and they wear out. But we will create tremendous electricity for our country.
So as you can see, even climate change is in the news, but Trump's not buying it because he knows the real issue is that it's just it's propaganda for the globalists to control us. What's the next new bad guy? Ooh, climate change. We gotta unite so we all don't sink in the ocean, or something like that. But he knows it's just a tool of control. Now, is something going on with the climate? Yeah, maybe not. But the idea of climate, I talked a few weeks ago about Operation Paperclip and specifically Warner von Braun. And again, I'm going to do an episode dedicated specifically to him. But he talked about how, on his deathbed, there's going to be a lie involving an asteroid, the climate, and aliens. Ooh, and it's all a lie. The point is, the idea of climate change has been pushed on us and thrown on us for years and years and years. They've known it's been a lie they're going to use. Here's a video from, I don't know if it'll show it on the screen, I can't quite remember, but it's probably from the 70s of the exact same warning and predictions. So guys, check this out. And again, it's the same old talking points, the same old lies, over and over and over again.
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Many scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has been rising over the past 100 years, that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously. And finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world. Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American farm belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada. Scientists blame the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. It is the greenhouse effect. The gas allows sunlight to filter down and warm the Earth. But like the glass of a greenhouse, the carbon dioxide tends to trap heat so that it cannot rise into space. The scientists maintain that the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years have produced more and more carbon dioxide and helped overheat the Earth. Now, some political leaders endorse the demands for more CO2 monitoring stations, like this one in Hawaii. And they share the anger of the scientists at Reagan administration budget cuts at a time when they feel closer to getting definitive answers.
We are not doing the kind of research that we should be doing to determine whether or not these scientists who are so alarmed are correct in their assessment.
And what they find out will affect the lives and fortunes of millions of people.
Look at that Al Gore propaganda. Oh, we at the Feast Me Network do not support the inventor of the internet, Al Gore. But the point is they've been spouting this propaganda for years, and didn't they say in the next 40 years that 25% of Florida would be underwater in 1982? Come on now. And so you might ask, again, we've got into it. The point of this propaganda, the climate change, man-made climate change specifically, is to essentially enslave us. The one world government, one world religion. They want us in 15-minute cities. You'll own nothing, be happy. The World Economic Forum, global agenda, that kind of thing. We'll spend a whole episode on that, but some people speculate that the government wants to control us about the narrative on climate change because they know that something deeper or something more is going on. Now, what might that be? And you see in the news every once in a while about how the pole is shifting, okay? And some scientists are alarmed that the pole's moving 13 feet per year, or whatever it is, or 30 miles or something. But the point is, they're worried about a pole shift. And some conspiracy theorists, or some people speculate, or even maybe some scientists speculate that climate change is caused by a cylindrical period pole shift, that every however many thousands of years there are pole shifts that cause catastrophic flooding, catastrophic climate changes, ice ages, these types of events that happen on Earth. And how does that tie into like the Bible and creation And I mean, like you'd see it as far as like the stories of the flood. And I'm not sitting here trying to debunk the Bible with this knowledge. That's not the point at all. The point is, what do the elites know that we don't? You've got all these billionaires that you see in the news building these bunkers, building these shelters. For what exactly? And so the implication is that what they push on us as man-made climate change to control and limit our resources is so that they can hoard and gather more resources for what they know is actually going to come. And that's the pole shift, which will be catastrophic for the entire Earth. Be like an extinction near level event if you read up on it. But and this will be the last thing I talk about, and this is a little longer of a video, so maybe I'll pop in, pop out. But this kind of gets into the pole shift. Maybe I'll skip it because it's got a kind of a slow start. But I just wanted to give you guys just this to essentially say, don't believe the climate change propaganda. Whether or not something's going on, I can't say for certain. Probably, something's definitely changing. But why and how and what's going on? I'm just trying to get you guys to ask what's going on. And so check this out. You guys will probably find it interesting. I know Fee will.
The French farmers are dumping manure onto government buildings and onto the roads. They are turning freeways into fields and setting them on fire. They are blocking the motorways, and they are dumping and destroying foreign imported foods. They are sending a message out to the people that government-decreed starvation is coming. And it's not just the French. It's happening in Germany, Greece, Spain, Belgium, Italy, and Ireland, and it looks like it's just getting started. This is, of course, in response to the European Union's green agenda. The EU is imposing extreme regulations on farmers, which are forcing them out of business. Globalist media is spreading propaganda that farming is bad for the environment. And domestic terrorists in America are setting fire to farms. This is all being blamed on the lie that humans are responsible for climate change. And so the solution for Western governments seems to be to depopulate, or rather, murder its own people. History tells us that the climate does radically change. Examples such as the Younger Dryas Ice Age that occurred 12,000 years ago shows us that these things do happen, and the current level of earthquake activity and volcanic eruptions could be an indicator that the climate is radically changing again. In the late 1940s, Major Maynard White, commander of Project Nanook, discovered that the Earth experiences routine magnetic pole flips that occur in the span of just one day. But this information was suppressed from the public and was directly followed by the birth of the United Nations global warming propaganda campaign. Western governments adopted the man-made global warming cover story, but this does not seem to be the case in the East. In Russia, talk of a pole shift is openly being discussed. Russian scientists have been tracking the wandering magnetic north, which has been exponentially moving towards Siberia for decades. And even state-run media RIA News has been reporting that the north and south magnetic poles have repeatedly changed places, and that it could happen again at any moment. Russian media has even cited the work of the sleeping American prophet Edgar Cayce, who predicted a sudden climate change that would lead to the death of cities and cause the European Arctic to thaw. The Russian Federation seems to be preparing for this pole shift. Massive infrastructure is being developed in the Eurasian Arctic, and Russian bases in Antarctica are being drastically restored. The farmers in Russia are not being attacked. they are being given extra subsidies by the government and encouraged to expand. These contrasting agendas between the East and the West could explain the current conflicts. If the poles are expected to flip, then it would explain just about all the madness that is happening today. And the plan of the Western governments appears to be to cull the population and weather the storm underground. Greg Reese reporting.
Yeah, so you've got that whole underlying thing going on while they're shoving down our throats man-made climate change propaganda. And so for a lot of people who've never heard about the pole shift or how the climate acts like that, again, it's because they're controlling us. As Gregory said, the Western governments would rather cull the populations. That's why they push poison in our foods. That's why they push too many vaccines on our children. They want to hoard the resources for themselves, and as they've literally said in their own words, kill us useless eaters. Now, they haven't said kill the useless eaters, but in essence, do away with the useless eaters. That's us. Anyways, man, it was a wild show today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of all the stuff I got into. It was fun for me. I didn't intend to go this long. I didn't even think I could go an hour, but here I am creeping up on an hour. So, guys, thanks as always for tuning in. And look for me tomorrow on the Manly Mark Show. Manly Mark Show. The Feast Me Show with Manly Mark at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. I'll be there, and I'll be here again tomorrow at noon. Midday Madness with Manly Mark. And, guys, don't forget to check out Night with Fee at 9 p.m. He goes on live. He'll go for an hour, sometimes longer. He doesn't think that people like the long content, but I keep telling him. Doesn't matter if they turn it off 30 minutes in, they might wake up the next morning and finish it. But if you're really flowing and vibing on a certain topic and giving examples, advice that are good, well, don't waste that just because you think you're going too long. People will tune out when they want to tune out. But that's beside the point. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.